I don't know. What are you bothering me for, Lisa? What's happening, little brother?
You scared me today.
How was your day today?
It was good. It was good. I just
You went to the gym. How many minutes did you walk on the elliptical?
I did an hour ago.
A fucking hour. How many calories did you burn?
That's right. Well, it's like an hour and 2 minutes because when you lose weight, it takes longer to burn calories. So I did 800 in about like an hour and 2 minutes.
You're a fucking savage. You're gonna win the elliptical challenge. We're gonna sign you up. There's got to be somebody right now in elliptical taking over the world.
Well, I mean,
knock his title right down.
Honestly, I should be doing more. Like I should be doing weightlifting, and I got a group onto a gym that does the cross training and kettlebells. But it's you. How long did you try to get me to walk for? Months.
Yeah.
And it took me months to even. I never did it. I did like 2 or 3 times, and it was so scary to me to start that.
You live in California. This is how fucking this. You're a Jew. I love you to fucking death. You guys are supposed to be the top of the fucking pinnacle.
We are.
Geniuses. You live in California, but you decide to walk inside.
Right.
Like 10,000 fucking Californians.
Because I can watch TV on the elliptical.
Yeah, you're not supposed to watch TV. You're supposed to watch fucking life. People running red lights. Fucking cats running across the street. I want you to think about that. People are dying from lack of vitamin C because you fucking
vitamin
guys
D, yeah.
live over here. You go to a gym, you walk like fucking momos. And meanwhile, it's 80 degrees outside. Vitamin D is the #1 killer of obesity. Did you know that?
Oh,
it was just fucking in London. There's no fucking fat people. They started giving them vitamin D. People started losing weight. I'm on it. I drank a gallon of it today.
Vitamin D?
Fuck yeah. It comes in little containers. I ate the whole thing.
It doesn't make sense, but it's better than me sitting on the couch for
You're not going to sit on the couch.
I used to.
You go to North Hollywood Park, you put a 20-pound dumbbell on your back, and you walk around like a fucking savage 8 times. You do that 5 days a week. You see how many pounds you lose. And you'll be a dark-skinned Jew.
I don't tan. I go from the whitest of the white to burnt and then back to white.
He'll be like Sammy Davis.
What the fuck? Get it together, dog. It's a beautiful day to be alive. You were inside for an hour. You could have been outside for an hour grabbing vitamin D with your iPod, listening to the fucking band you listen to.
Jumping up and down?
Jumping up and down.
Yeah. How was your day?
I had a nice day today. I took Mercy to the park about 8 o'clock, walked around till about 10.
Did you play with the fire ants? That's the funniest thing.
No, I didn't take her to the fire ants today because we don't even go to that park no more. She's bored of that fucking park.
Did your kid get hit with fire ants? My kid got hit with fire ants.
That's how I take her out of there.
You
she don't want to leave.
You tell her this.
I take her to the fire ants. I take her to the fire ants. He plays around. She gets one. Then she goes, and let's go. I pick her up and it's out of there. You got to. This American ingenuity, though. You got to be on top of things. Nick Santora in the fucking house tonight.
How are you?
Writer, executive producer, ex-attorney. Names with a gangster. People confuse you. Your credits all fucked up.
No, my credits are good. This is a Nicky the Mouth. Is it Nicky the Mouth or Nicky Big Mouth? I think it's Nicky the Mouth.
Know.
Nicky the Mouth Santora. I'm pretty sure it's Nicky the Mouth.
He was a banana guy.
I believe so. Yeah,
right.
He was banana. Yeah, he was banana.
He was a banana guy.
He's still alive.
He's still alive.
I think the last I heard he was in Chicago. But what the hell do I know? I don't know. I don't know the man. But I do know. A million years ago, I'm in law school up in New York. I get a phone call one day. Hello, hey Nicky, I'm out. I go, who the hell is this? He's like, I'm out. I'm like, what the fuck? I just hang up. I don't know who the hell it is. Phone rings 2 seconds later. Hello. Hey, Nick, I'm out. You told me to call you when I'm out. I go, who the fuck you? I hang up the phone because I don't know who it is. 2 seconds later, phone rings again. I pick it up. He goes, don't hang up. He's like, Nicky, you told me that when I got out, I should call you. I go, oh, you're looking for the other Nicky Santora. I go, congratulations on your release. I go, I am not that Nicky Santora. I go, I'm actually a law student. I swear to God, there's a beat of silence. The guy goes, you do criminal law? I go, no. I don't have my law degree yet. I go, you got the wrong guy. He must have just looked me up, in New York. I don't know why he was looking up in New York or whatever. And then a few years later, I had an aunt, God rest her soul, who passed away, and I think she left me like $2,000. And I didn't know what to do with it. So I knew a guy, and what to do with it. But, I knew a guy, I wanted to do something smart. And I knew a guy whose dad was like, he worked at like Prudential. I don't even know what he did at Prudential. And he said, oh yeah, he's like a stockbroker. He's like, oh yeah, he'll put you in a mutual fund. So he opens a $2,000 mutual fund. The next day, and this guy was like a lower level guy. Next day he gets a phone call. Come up to the 37th floor. 37th floor is all the executives, all the VPs, all like the head guys. He goes up there. He's never been called up to the 37th floors in his entire life. He goes up there, conference table surrounded by guys. he sits down and they go, "What the hell are you opening up an account for Nick Santora for?" And he goes, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "For $2,000. It's such a small amount. Clearly, he's looking to see if he can open small accounts, maybe launder some money, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "What are you talking?" They go, "This guy's a gangster." He goes, This is a kid that my son went to school with. What are you talking about?" They're like, No. This is the wrong guy. And he had to show him my social security number, my birth certificate, all this stuff, that it was a different Nick Santora. Every once in a while, it pops up.
No, for years, every time I saw his name, I'm like, or I saw your name, I kept thinking, look at this fucking guy. He became a writer now.
Yeah, you know what's funny is there's a lot of Nick Santoras. Santora in Italy, it's like Smith. It's not maybe not like Smith, but it's not an uncommon name. There's a fair amount of Santoras in the country, in America, and there's I've come across a lot of Nick. There's a Nick Santora who's like a world famous skateboarder. There's a bunch of them. Every once in a while, I'll get an email from one of them. I'll be like, "Hey, I saw your name on TV. That's my name. What do you want me to do about it?"
Is he a famous mob? Like, how did you know he was a mobster? Like, did he find out one day, or?
How did I know?
Yeah.
Because I got a call from a guy in prison.
But did you know that?
Oh, no. I you just knew from, if you grow up with this name the same as the mobster, eventually someone just tells you and it just bled in. And then Casino came out and there was Nicky Santoro in Casino and people thought that was me. And
how did they get famous? Like, I've never even thought about it. But, like, how did all the big mobsters get famous? Like, back in, like, the 40s?
Singing.
Really?
From fucking being mobsters.
From being mobsters.
I know, but it's like...
The Nicky Santoro we're talking about was a Bonanno guy.
Yeah.
He was a big time, but in fact, he still is a big time. Like, he's the only... There's like maybe 3 guys left from that Donnie Brasco, and he's still walking around somewhere. He could be out here. Every once in a while, I go somewhere, and somebody will come up to me and go, "Hey, this guy over here in the gym, this is this guy." Like, who's in Beverly Hills now? Donnie Shacks.
I got no idea.
Yeah, so everybody knows he's in town. He's trying to put a reality show together. Guy's 70 years old. So I finally got a call about a year ago that you should come down and audition for Nicky's whatever, Montemoro, whatever his fucking name is, reality show. It's going to be called something about the neighborhood, and he's going to take care of problems in Beverly Hills. What the fuck? When does it end? So they started coming out here. There's a bunch of them. What's
Can you believe Whitey Bulger was here for how many years?
Whitey Bulger, but he didn't say nothing. But the other guy was right in Studio City. Ubats.
Listen.
Sal Ubats used to have coffee at Marie ETC every day. He just moved. Recently.
Well, these guys, look, they did their thing. They did their time. They came out now they just want to live the good life in California. And they want to, they actually want to walk around outside and enjoy the sunshine, Lee.
Well, they want to sell their story.
I understand why they want to move
It's too late to
here.
sell your fucking story now. Like they've heard 85 fucking stories.
Right.
Now they want to come out. They were a mafia. They carried envelopes. That's too fucking late. Where were you 10 years ago? We were buying.
Right.
Yeah, I get people pitch me mob stories all the time. I try to tell them, I go, there's no sale. I can't make them. I don't have the money to make the movie. You got to go to a studio. And no, they don't want them.
Really?
And they're dead at the studio.
It seems like every 3 years there's a new mob thing.
No.
Dead. Well, now they got Whitey Bulger, but that's because what's his name is in it.
They got the Depp one, they got the Affleck one. They got competing, and they're all messed up. I don't know what's going on with those.
Right. So no, the one is shooting. The Donnie Depp one
Right.
is shooting. That's done already, probably. It's the other one, because the other thing is, I get called once a month. I get a call or an email. Can you look at the script? And as soon as I see Nicky, Joey, Sal, that's it.
Yeah. That's
it. It doesn't even go farther than that. I call them up and tell them thank you, but I'm busy those weeks. I got something, because it's not going to happen. And if it does happen, it's going to be a fucking wear-out situation that I don't want to be involved. I got better shit to do with my time, like fucking eat brownies with you and goof on you and shit like that. How did you get into this? So we were talking earlier, you went to Columbia Law.
Yeah.
So and this happens fucking every day, where the first day you walk into a place, you go, maybe this ain't for me.
Yeah.
But you don't say it because you're already there.
Yeah.
Now you get that fucking degree, you marry your high school girlfriend, she gained 60 fucking pounds, and now you're working and you're doing 2 fucking things you don't want to do, and then it begins. That's it.
Yeah, I would listen. My first day of being a lawyer, I came back to my apartment on Bleecker Street, and my girlfriend had a key to the place. She was already in there. She's now my wife. Beautiful Italian girl from Bergen County, New Jersey, and we're still together. We've been together since I was 24 years old, 20 years. And she looked at me and she said, "How was your first day?" She was so excited for me, just beautiful and excited. And I looked at her and I just looked her right in the eyes and I go, I wasted the last 3 years of my fucking life. I'm $120,000 in debt. I want to kill myself. I fucking hate this. What the fuck am I gonna? First day. I got home at like 10:30 at night, and one of the lawyers was like, "Let's call it here. Let's pack it in early today. Pack it in early. It's 10:30. I've been here since 7:15." But that's what it's like at those big corporate law firms. And my wife looked at me, and this is why we are a good, match. I get sometimes worked up. And she looked at me and she said, "Well, you can't just quit. It'll make you look like a schmuck. It's your first day, first week. You just got out of law school. It'll ruin your career. She's like, you got to do a year. Got to do a year, at least." And I said, "All right, you're right." And I just did it, I just did it checking off a calendar every day. You were in. You know what it's like. Don't let the time do you. Do the time.
Just do the time.
I'm not saying it's not the same, not nearly the same as being locked up.
Time is time, brother.
But I just said, I got to kill it. I got to kill it. And I did 1 year, 1 month, and 1 day. And I quit that job. And I said, you know what? My dad was a carpenter. He was a construction worker, union man. And I said, there's money when guys get hurt. I'm going to go do slip and fall. And I went from like 1,000 lawyers in this beautiful law firm. I mean, gorgeous law firm. Tip of Manhattan, overlooking the Statue of Liberty, to 5 lawyers above a pizza place in Brooklyn. And we just did slip and falls. And car accidents, malpractice, I went from like the fanciest law firm in the world to honestly standing on the corner outside, Woodhull Hospital, handing out business cards saying, "You got hurt? Call me. You got hurt? Call." It was crazy. But I figured I could get into a courtroom and at least actually try a case, and that would at least be fun and exciting for me. Well, that sucks shit too.
Sounds like the Wolf of Wall Street, essentially.
Yeah, except I wasn't making money like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Do you remember
I was
how
the
much
puppy
money?
of fucking Putz Street. Do
you remember how much money you were making at the firm? Because my girlfriend's in law school, and she doesn't want to work in the firm because of what you were talking about, like the 90 hours, 100-hour weeks.
Yeah.
And she told me like the DAs when you start out can make like 50, 60,000, which is good. But she tells me like when you go to like the first year of like a law firm, you make 200,000 or something.
Well, that's maybe today, like at these back then. But I'm sure time value of money, inflation, everything. But I think I remember my starting salary in like '96 was like $84,000, and I think they gave like a $10,000 bonus, so it was like $95,000. And I think I made 99 total that year. That's wonderful. That's I'll never say no to a dollar. If it was honest money, but I hated it. And when I was a slip and fall guy, I fucking hated it. Every once in a while, you got someone who was really hurt, who couldn't feed their family, and you helped them, and that was good. But a lot of times you had people where you're like, I know this motherfucker's lying. I know his back's fine. I know his neck's fine. But you can't do anything about it because you have a duty. If the client's telling you, if they tell you, look, I'm full of shit, then you have to not represent. You have to say, I can't represent you. But when they're sitting there saying, oh, it really hurts, it really hurts, like, they're fucking lying. But what I did when I was doing that, because I was practicing law in Brooklyn and the Bronx and Staten Island and Queens and running around, I just, and I think it's what a lot of writers do. I was just absorbing it all. And I did it for years and years. And just all the characters, the world, the craziness, the corruption, the scumbags, the pieces of shit, the ones who are trying to do it honestly, the fucking liars, the plaintiffs who you really feel bad for, the scummy insurance carriers, then the beaten down defense attorneys that work for the insurance carriers, the corrupt judges. I was so dumb, I had a judge trying to get me to bribe him in his chamber. I didn't even fucking realize it. A couple of years later, he goes away for taking bribes. He wound up getting like 9 years, I think, or something like that. Judge Barron, I'll say his fucking name. I'm pretty sure. If that's not the guy, please don't sue me. I got the name wrong by accident, but I'm 99% sure it was Judge Barron. And he went away. All this shit was going down, and I was just absorbing it and sucking it in. And the whole time, my whole life, since I was 6 years... should I shut up? Is this boring? You want me to...
No, this is tremendous.
From the time I was 6 years old, I always wanted to be a writer. I just loved it. And when I got to the place where I couldn't take it anymore, I was going to fucking hang myself. I mean, I was miserable. I was so depressed. And my wife, one morning, I'm sitting there. I'd gotten up from work. She comes out of the bathroom. She had gotten herself ready. She was a school teacher. And she got her face on or whatever. She doesn't even wear makeup. She's just beautiful. She doesn't need makeup. But she did whatever she did to come out. And she looks at me, and I'm sitting on the couch. I'm still in my boxers and T-shirt that I wore the night before. I've been up for an hour. I couldn't bear to even put my suit on to go to court that day. And she looks at me, and I look up at her, and this has been going on for months now. Deep depression. And I just look at her, and I go, it'll get better. Because I knew what she was thinking. And she looks at me, and she said, well, it better. Because I can't live the rest of my life like this. And that just put the fear of God in me. Because she's not the kind of woman you want to lose. So I had a week of vacation coming up. I hadn't taken a vacation in almost 2 years. And I said to my wife, I'm going to take a week's vacation. We're not going to go anywhere. I'm going to stay home. I'm going to write a screenplay. And she said, thank fucking God. Shut up about it already. Write the screenplay. So I took a week off and I wrote a screenplay. I started on a Saturday morning. I wrote that whole weekend. I wrote Monday through Friday. I wrote Saturday, Sunday the next weekend. By that Sunday night, I was done. It was a screenplay called Slip and Fall. It was about a crooked personal injury attorney in Brooklyn. I wrote what I knew and submitted it to the New York International Independent Film Festival. It won. It got accepted, and it won Best Screenplay. And, you know, I don't know. I always get the timetable messed up because it was 15 years ago now or something. Or maybe not 15, but 13 years ago now. But basically, I got David Chase read it and asked me to write one episode of The Sopranos for him. And it changed my life. And I quit my law job. My wife and I got in a Toyota RAV4, which was my car, and drove 3,000 miles away from every person we knew. Set up shop in L.A. to see if I could make it as a writer.
That's it.
That's it.
That's what fucking take a chance Columbus did, bitch.
Can you explain? Because I went through it too. I moved out here to be an editor on TV, and I worked for 3 years doing it. And 2 of the years I was working nights, and I had that every day. Like when you wake up and you just dread going to work.
Yeah.
Like that's just.
I did that for about half a decade.
That's awful
5,
way to
6
live.
years.
Everybody goes through that. This is interesting conversation. Everybody goes through that,
and it builds character. I think it's good for you. I now, because now when I get in a situation where I'm like, oh, oh man, this year I'm doing this show Scorpion that I created, and it's always you get when you're a writer, you get the developed by credit or the created by credit. It's a little bit of bullshit. You got hundreds of people making this show so for someone to say I created it. I wrote the pilot and pitched the show and wrote the pilot, but there's hundreds of good people making this show happen. But that being said, it's a first-year show. It's insane hours, 19-hour days. I had one day a couple of weeks ago where I probably slept 3 hours one night, got up on a Friday, worked all day Friday, till about 5, 6 o'clock at night. We started filming on 6 o'clock at night, went till about 7 o'clock the next morning, Saturday morning, raced home, got my kids, went to their soccer games. They had 2 games back to back, took them to a birthday party. I went 40 hours without sleeping after like a full day's work. And it was, it was exhausting. That's what it's like. But when I start feeling bad for myself, like you were saying, it's good that I went through it because I can say I got nothing to complain about. I'm doing what I love. Some days are hard. It's not nearly as hard as being in Afghanistan with a gun. It's not nearly as hard as what my dad did for a living. My dad walked up and down scaffolds in New York City winters, sheetrock knives cutting through his hand, breaking his back, doing all this shit. I get to sit in a nice air-conditioned office and make up stories. I am blessed. I am happy. I got a wonderful family. And the reason I think I appreciate some of it is I spent years doing something that I hated because I wasn't meant to do it.
Now you know what it feels like.
And I know what it feels like to be unhappy. And you know what? Even then, I was being a little bitch because I had nothing to be unhappy about then either. I was making money. I was feeding my family. I got nothing ever in my life to be unhappy about. But I wasn't meant to be a lawyer. I always wanted to be a writer. I'm happy with what I'm doing now. I'm very fortunate. I'm the luckiest guy you guys will talk to ever.
It's funny that you spoke about Slip and Fall. How interesting. Like now I need to read the script because I want to laugh.
Well, you know what's funny?
I want to fucking laugh because I tell Lee all the time, when I was in high school, there was a guy, Cy Lawrence. And all this guy did, he went around.
He was a flopper.
Yes.
Yeah.
He had pants. He had pants that had pee stains in them. You couldn't sit next to him. He smelled. He lived in a garage. And this guy, throughout the year, he was a genius. What this guy did, he couldn't tell you on paper, but he was a degenerate gambler.
Right.
So USC would call this guy. Like, he knew all these coaches, and they'd go, we'll pay you. These are like secret scouts, and break down Pittsburgh. We're playing them in a month.
Oh, he's really good at it, right?
Cy was a genius.
Okay.
Cy was a genius. But in the off season, Cy set up so he kept bugging me for years. Joey, I know you make a scam. All I want is $400. He had 50 guys paying him $400. He took you to a supermarket. He dropped the pickle juice on the floor.
You flop.
You'd slip, and he'd tell you, as soon as somebody comes to you, the key words are, did I pass out? That's the money right there. Because then we're going to put you on an ambulance. I swear to God.
You have to go through it, because he's gone through it, like, each step, and then he's like...
Oh, my God. We talk about it every day.
Yeah, and the other thing that you do is you tell the client, is what you say is, listen, and this was because what I did is I took Slip and Fall, I turned it into a novel. It was a national bestseller called Slip and Fall. That's what you should read. And I took the screenplay, turned it into a novel, because I wanted to explore it even more and really get into it. And you'll love it. It's set in Brooklyn, and it's nice. And there's a scene in it where the lawyer is prepping his client for deposition, and he says, listen, I can't tell you to lie. I would never tell you to lie. That would be against the law. I'm just going to tell you what the law is, and you apply your facts to that law. If you say during the deposition that you walked into the supermarket and slipped on the pickle juice and fell down and got hurt, but you had just entered the supermarket, you have no case, because you can't prove how long it was on the floor. And then the supermarket doesn't have what the law calls actual or constructive notice. But if you're telling me you walked into the supermarket, passed the pickle juice, noticed it, went and got your cereal, your milk, your eggs, your oranges, then when you were walking back to the cash register about 20 minutes later, you slipped on the pickle juice, which you rightfully assumed would have been cleaned up by then, so you weren't looking for it, and got hurt. Well, then you've got a $100,000 case. So now, tell me the truth of what happened. And you know what? Amazingly, no client ever told me that they hadn't seen the pickle juice first. And 20 minutes hadn't passed. And that's why I fucking hated myself.
Fucking amazing. And then he had other attorneys that would tell you if you broke an arm, you got $50,000. If you broke a leg, you got $100,000.
Yeah. If
you slipped and broke your hip, like if you really broke it. So they would look for people who were just at homes already recovering and make up a story. I mean, it was fucking, this is what he did every day.
Yeah,
he did this every day, every side.
You had people who get, they never had a homeowner's policy, and then they'll get a homeowner's policy, and they'll talk to their friend down the street and say, come over to my house for some coffee. And when you leave, you're going to say you slipped and fell on the ice on my stoop. And I'm going to say that it was icy. I poured down some rock salt. It melted it, but I didn't push the water off, so it created a clear ice, which was more dangerous because you can't see it. So I created a dangerous condition. You'll say you fell. You'll say your back hurt. I know a chiropractor. You take an MRI. There's a line in my book, Slip and Fall, where the guy with a crooked chiropractor says, MRIs are like those ink blot tests. Some people see a butterfly. Some people see their mom with an ice pick in their back. Either way, you see what you see. He'll say you have a bad disc, and we'll get some money. And that's what would happen. And I'd have these clients, and I'd know they were lying about it, but they would always say they were telling the truth. Just so happened that their good friend from down the street happened to slip in their house. And the guy who owned the house would say, yeah, it's my fault. And what happens? He loses his home insurance policy. He didn't want it to begin with. So his friend gets $100,000. The lawyer takes $33,000. The friend gets $66,000. And the friend then kicks him back $25,000. And by the way, it's all tax-free money. You don't get taxed on personal injury money.
I'm going to throw you down the stairs tonight, Lee.
But you know what? These people, I'm telling you, that's why I don't have my license in California. I don't do this stuff anymore. I'm not involved because the truth is eventually, and that doesn't take that long, 99.9% of these people get caught. They get caught, and there's no good in it.
I knew a kid in Jersey when I was growing up that got hurt. Not a good friend, just I heard the story, got hurt, and took some time off, and he worked for like a big trucking firm, and he was a big shot there, and he took time off. He was suing the trucking firm or something, went to the deposition, they awarded him the money, and that day he was dancing in a club in the city, and they took pictures of him, and he lost the case. They said he had blow, he was on a table.
Yeah.
And they did it recently in New York. A bunch of people, the fire guys that wanted disability.
There's a lot of these guys. They follow him with video.
Yep, and they got him on a boat. The guy hadn't been to work in fucking 5 years, and they caught him out in a boat in Staten Island fishing, pulling in a fucking great white. But you got a bad back. You're out there fucking being Jaws.
Yeah. It's really, It's really a problem. The disability stuff has a ton of fraud in it. It's an issue, and I didn't want to be part of that. And I would look. I never told the client to lie, even when you break down the stuff for the deposition. I wasn't as bad as maybe as I was making it out. But the truth is that these guys out there, there are guys out there that are really good personal injury attorneys that are trying to help people, and there are a lot of people out there that are they're just doing the wrong thing. And I just didn't want to be part of it. And the truth is even if I was doing the right thing every single day, which I was, I just wanted to write. I just wanted to write.
And the crazy thing is, the truth between you and I, the money I got from helping Cy Lawrence, I paid for that 10 times over in karma.
Yeah, there you go.
That I think I got $18,000. When I got arrested, my attorney bill was $18,000. I mean, it was just,
there you go.
It always came back to haunt me, that $18,000 fucking dollars. So at the end, you don't really win nothing. You just buy some fucking time for yourself. I remember I fell in front of a fucking sneaker store. And here's how even crazy it got. I fell in front of that sneaker store, but they sold the sneakers I liked. That's how I knew the hole was there in the sidewalk. And I went back there 6 months later to get a pair of Adidas. And I was in a rush. I had to get the fuck out of there. I had to catch a bus or something. And I just took the box. And when I got to Aspen, Colorado, I put the sneakers on. One was a 12, the other one was a 9.5. I had to walk like a schmuck with a 9.5 and a 12. And I got an ingrown toenail and fucking... So there you have it,
There
folks.
you go.
Karma is always a motherfucker. So now, David Chase got you on the phone. Did you shit your pants when he called you?
No, he didn't call me. I had been signed by an agency after I won the film festival, and they said, they'd been calling me, and they said, listen, you got a meeting. And I said, look, I've told you guys 1,000 times. I'm a working lawyer. I can't just fly out to L.A. I'd only been with them a couple of months. And they said, no. This isn't in L.A. It's in New York. And I go, who the hell in New York? Who? And then it just hit me. I'm like, don't tell me. And they're like, yeah, David Chase, Sopranos. He loves your script. Can you go meet with him? And I said, yeah, I can go meet with him. So I went over there, and it was, Silver Cup Studios in Queens.
Yeah.
And there's that parking lot right across the street. It has a big chain link fence around it, so you got to park and then walk all the way around to get the Silver Cup. And I've told the story before because it's the truth. I parked the car, and I got out. I started walking around the fence. And I remember looking at the sidewalk, looking at the cracks in the sidewalk, trying not to step on. And I said to myself in my head, I was like, okay, asshole, next hour, 60 minutes determines the rest of your fucking life. You got 60 minutes. You're going to be happy the rest of your life. You're going to be miserable. So I went in there, and we talked. And I talked about story and character and that kind of stuff. And he talked to me about my script. He told me he thought my script was very funny, very real. And he said to me, look, but I understand you're an attorney. When are you going to have time to do this? And I looked him right in the eyes, and I fucking lied. And I said, well, the good news is, Mr. Chase, is it's December, and the holidays are coming up. And I took an early vacation. My vacation starts tomorrow. The truth is, I had a trial starting the next day. And he said, great. And so he said, let me talk to your agents. So I left, and I got a call from my agents that night. I was living in Long Island, and Long Beach. I was living in Long Beach, and in this tiny apartment in this house, one of these big old houses built right on the block before the boardwalk. And they had an apartment. The apartment was the old maid's quarters. So it had a separate staircase, separate entrance. It was tiny. And in the winter, the wind would blow through that thing off of the ocean. It was, my wife and I would go to bed at 6:30 because we were just too fucking cold. We needed to get under the covers. And the phone rings, and that's the first thing I learned about Hollywood. When the phone rings and there's two agents on the phone call, it's good news because they both want credit for it. They both want credit for giving you the good news. And they were both on the phone, and they said, congratulations, he wants you to write an episode of The Sopranos. I'll never forget that feeling. I said to my wife, I'm like, I was so amped up. I said, we got to go for a walk. Now, it's December on the boardwalk at 10 o'clock at night because it was 7 in L.A., and we went out and we walked. I'm like, let's just walk the boardwalk. Let's walk the boardwalk. And we were both so excited. And I'm walking the boardwalk, and we walked maybe 100 yards. I'm like, fuck this. Let's get the fuck out. I'm freezing my ass off.
When he called you, did he give you parameters for the script?
Well, then I had to go back in and meet with him, and he gave me a piece of paper. I sat down with him and Terry Winter, who did Boardwalk Empire, who's a friend and a very nice man, and he was very good to me. Because after that meeting, Terry came up to me and he said, listen, it's a freelance. And this is the height of the Sopranos mania. It was between seasons 2 and 3. Season 1, it was a breakout hit. Season 2, people got nuts, and people couldn't wait for season 3. And Terry Winter came up to me after the meeting and he said, listen, here's the deal. I want this to be a good experience for you. Here's my home number. Here's my cell number. Here's the direct line to my office. You have any questions while you're doing this, just give me a call. He didn't need to do that for some freelance schmuck who had never had anything produced in his life. And he's just a nice guy, Terry. He's always been nice to me. And so we sat down, and it was one sheet of paper at this point. That was it. One sheet of paper with a bullet point. And there were about 50 bullet points, each for a scene. And each bullet point had one sentence. You know, Tony talks to AJ about football practice. I'm making stuff out of it. That kind of stuff. And then he'd say, yeah, in this scene, we're looking for this or that or whatever. And I was just jotting down notes. And I went home and I wrote. I was writing it at night. I wrote it on the weekend. I finished it in about 5 days. And I remember David Chase called me and he said, I heard from Terry that you're almost done. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, are you sure? This is really fast. And I'm like, no, I'm rereading it, but I'm done. I feel good about it. He's like, okay, send it on in. And the one thing that law school did for me and being a lawyer did for me is I'm fast. I wrote my last novel in 8 weeks. And if you give me a good outline on a network television show, you give me a good outline, I'll have you a script in 36 hours. I gave him the script. He turned around, called me up, and he said, listen, I got it. Thank you for your work. There was a C story in it about AJ having a crush on a girl. He's like, we decided we don't want to do that story. So we're going to put in a new story there. It's like 4 or 5 scenes. And he said, but, I'll never forget it. He said, I want you and your wife move to LA, go write. You're going to have a successful career. You're going to be a writer. And I was on the Northern Parkway in New York in traffic when he called. And, no, I was on Northern Parkway after I left his office. After he gave me the beat sheet, I was on Sunrise on Long Island when he called me and gave me that. And that was very nice of him to say. And the last time I ever talked to him, guy just came into my life, sprinkled fairy dust on my head and said, I'm going to change your life. I never talked to him again. A few years ago was the 10-year anniversary of me getting that job. I sent him a very nice bottle of wine with a note that said, thank you very much for the opportunity 10 years ago. You changed my life. I sent one to Terry Winter. And Terry and I keep in touch. Every once in a while we'll email. David Chase is when Slip and Fall, the novel came out, I thanked him in the book. He was one of the people I thanked because the guy changed my life. He wouldn't know me if I went outside and he hit me with his car. He'd be like, who's this bald fuck that I hit with my car? He wouldn't know who I am. But changed my life.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
How did you take it in classes in college or just because for the second thing you ever wrote, it sounds like to be writing Sopranos, were you nervous or was it just you didn't even know to be nervous?
It's funny. I wasn't nervous. It's so funny. It's I know. Well, to answer your first question, I've never taken a writing class.
That must piss a lot of people off in this town. That must be the worst thing.
Maybe, but some people, I think writing classes can be very effective and very helpful, but I just never did.
Right.
I kind of on the job training. But I think it was one of those things where you're so blessed, you're so stupid and so ignorant about the business. You don't know enough to be nervous, at least at the beginning. I was nervous when I walked into that meeting. I knew I had an hour to either give myself the life I really wanted or not get it. Or at least have to wait a lot longer to get it. I knew enough that if I can get a Sopranos episode, that's got to mean something because this show is really popular. And I do remember sitting in the basement of my in-laws' house in Jersey, and they have my father-in-law has a little basement office he keeps down there and just filled with, bric-a-brac and shit. And he's a little desk. And I remember sitting there on my computer, and that's where I went to type. It was quiet there. And I started typing, and I got to, 3/4 down on the first page, and I typed in the word Tony. And I was about to write dialogue for Tony Soprano. And that's the one time it hit me, and I took my fingers off the keyboard and I kind of pushed away from the desk for a second and just went.
This is fucking real.
This is fucking real.
This is real.
I'm about to write something that Tony Soprano is going to say, so it should be good. And it was a good episode. It was the episode where at the end, Tony told Assemblyman Zellman, "Go ahead, you can sleep with the Russian girl,"
and beat her up with
and then he
belt.
takes his belt off and he rips the shit out
That's
of him.
That's a good episode.
And that was also the one where they shot up they bought the crack house, the HUD house.
Right.
They pulled out all the copper piping, and then they just used the loan money. And that was a fun episode. There were some good lines in it that that I wrote that I think did well, and it's still to this day an important credit on my resume.
Absolutely.
When people say you wrote for that show, because people in the business know I beat 1 in 10 million odds getting that job with no. The first thing I ever had produced was a Sopranos episode. The first time I ever saw my name on television was my wife and I had moved out because it took so long with HBO to actually. We moved out to L.A. and then a few months out in L.A. they finally aired the episode, and we were living in this tiny little apartment, and I sat on the couch and we got the New York feed, so we got to see it earlier.
7 o'clock or something.
Yeah.
5 o'clock or something.
And I sat there and watched it on TV, and my name came up, and I started to cry because I said to my wife, "I'm like, you're the only one, who thought I could do it." It was nice.
What was it like? How much time was there between you sending in the script and you hearing back that he liked it? Because I can imagine, he might be worried that he's going to call and say, "I hate it. You made a mistake."
No, he was very kind. I mean, he said to me, and he was honest, and I didn't realize at the time that it's very common. And now that I'm a showrunner and I've created 3 television shows now that have gotten on the air, I've been very, very blessed that, when you have a tone and a voice of the show, a showrunner will take it and tweak it and make changes or blah, 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 or do a wholesale rewrite. In this case, he said to me, he's like, "Look, I'm going to go through it and do this, that, or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, no, maybe, he's being nice, but maybe he doesn't really mean it. He's telling me I could be a good writer." And I called up my agents, and they said, no. This is the way it works. And then when the final script came out and I saw it, 80% of, I'd say, the C story had changed, which they told me was going to happen. But I'd say, 70-80% of my dialogue was there. And there were some lines in there. It's when Paulie gets out of prison, and they're like, "Paulie, what can I get you?" And he's like, "After 6 months inside, how about laid?" And at the end, Tony goes, "I never thought I'd say this, but to the federal government," when he's cheering because they stole the federal HUD money. And so that's all stuff I wrote, and where I grew up in New York, everyone talks like that. It's how and these guys, and how they talk, and they're they're very charming, fun guys.
You know who had a good line in that scene?
Who's that? You probably know it better than I.
Sharippa. When he goes, "Hold on," and they play his song by Sinatra, and he's sitting there, and all of a sudden he goes, "This is his song," and he goes, "Why is it his song?"
Is that in that episode? I don't even remember.
That's that episode because I remember it now.
I haven't seen that episode in probably 10 years.
It was on. It's funny.
It's called watching too much television.
Right, but The Sopranos was on, and then they were on A&E for a while. And I'd catch them on A&E, and that's when, in the daytime, I'd be bored. They came on at 3 or something. That's a great time to dick on. So I started watching them, and that's when he has that line. He goes, "Why is it his song?" Everybody's got a song.
Yeah, everyone's got a song.
Why is it his song?
He was great on that show. He brought a lot of sweetness to that character. It was great. Yeah, they replaced the storyline I didn't write at all. They replaced the AJ storyline with the story of Chris and his girlfriend, and she doesn't think she has to testify against him, and she goes to the lawyer, and the lawyer's like, "You've been watching too much television." That was the name of the episode. And I think that was 4 or 5 scenes that I had 0 to do with. And I think Terry Winter came in and wrote, and Terry's such a great writer.
And from there, you went to Prison Break.
No, from there, then I moved out to L.A. to look for work, and my wife and I were out here, and I quit my law job. She was a tenured teacher. She quit that job. And when I asked her, I said, "Listen, I think maybe we should give this a shot." I'll never forget. She looked at me and she said, "Okay." She goes, "It'll be an adventure. If it doesn't work, we can come home." That was it. And we moved. And it was hard. All my family was back. All my family's back. I come from a very close family, a very big family, a very close family. moved out here, and I was out here I was unemployed 16 days. I just got a horseshoe up my ass. Just a lucky guy. And I got a job on a show called The Guardian on CBS. It was season 2 of The Guardian. It was with Simon Baker and Dabney Coleman. It was picked up for 22 episodes. We wound up doing 23. I got paid for a whole year as a writer. I wound up as a baby staff writer, getting my name on multiple scripts that year, really writing a lot. Sony, only time this has ever happened to me in this business, Sony gave me something for nothing. They were the studio, and they said, this kid's doing a great job. We need to promote him. They didn't ask me to give him a pilot script in return. They didn't ask for another year on my contract. And they promoted me within a year. I was up 4 levels. I went from a staff writer to a co-producer on the show. And then when that was over, I went to Law & Order. I did that for 1 year. While I was on Law & Order, I created a reality show called Beauty and the Geek that ran for 5 years on the WB and CW. Do you remember that show?
Yeah.
And that I'd never done reality before. Haven't done it since. But that's when reality was in its heyday.
Right.
And I just said, I remember watching a commercial, and a network had a show called The Littlest Groom, which was basically Who Wants to Marry a Midget. And I said, and they pulled it. They never aired it. They pulled it because people got so offended by the commercials. But I remember watching the commercials, and I said to my wife, this shit, we're in trouble because I'm a writer, and this shit's not written. And I got to, if you can't beat them, join them. And a month later, we had Beauty and the Geek sold. That got on the air. And then I went from there, from Law & Order to Prison Break, which was the best 4 years of my life. I mean, what a group of writers. All those writers on that show, man, they were amazing. And we did that, made some of the best friends in my life, worked hard, had fun. And from Prison Break, created a show with a friend of mine called Breakout Kings. That ran for a couple of years.
A&E.
It's a very fun show, good show.
Dominic Lombardozzi.
He's like, Dom, he's like my brother, that guy.
No, I've never met him. I just see him in 29,000 fucking
He's
things.
the best human being, the nicest guy.
Another fucking guy with a mobster name.
Yeah, but he's a good man.
Everybody says he's very cool.
And you want to talk about an actor that will just give you his heart and soul. I mean, he'll do it. He'll just do it. And he and I, we become close. We're like brothers, and I love him. And did that. During that time, I put out a couple of books. I had my first novel, Slip and Fall, my second novel, 15 Digits. They both did well. The first one was a national bestseller. And so that was an interesting, different type of storytelling, books. And then what did I do after that? I did Breakout. Then I did Vegas. For the 1 year it was on, I wanted the opportunity to work with Nick Pileggi. Anyone who writes Goodfellas and Casino is all right by me. The coolest cat you'd ever want to meet. 81, I think he's 82 years old now. He was 80 when I worked with him, and he showed up every single day. More energy than anyone in that room. The nicest man, the most decent man. And you want to talk about humble? I mean, I don't know about you guys. If I wrote Goodfellas, I'd wear a T-shirt every day that said I wrote Goodfellas. I'd never stop. I mean, listen to me now. All I'm doing is talking about myself. I haven't done shit in this business. And Nick Pileggi never. You got to pull it out of him. And I did. I made him crazy every day. I was like, "Hey, Mr. Pileggi, remember that scene when Pesci goes, when little young Pesci goes, hey, how you doing, Hendry?" I go, "Why do you call him Hendry? Why didn't he call him Henry?" I'm like, "Was that a mistake?" But every day. And the best was, he's like, "No, that was scripted." He goes, we knew a guy in our neighborhood. He couldn't say
People
Henry.
from the Bronx.
Yeah, he called him Hendry.
Henry Earl.
Yeah.
They really said Earl. I went to school with a family, the Balzanos, and the mom, Marianne, was from the Bronx. And she said that. She would say Hendry.
Yeah.
Hendry, Earl, instead of oil. She had a couple of words that were just fucking tremendous. Hendry, yeah.
Oh, and I drove him crazy, and he was so patient with me. He answered every single question because I loved him. He's the nicest man. Everyone called him Nick. I refused to call him Nick. It was Mr. Pileggi. Out of respect for what he did. And also, he's 80 years old. You call him, I'm like, in my kids' school, all the kids are like, they call all their friends' parents by their first name. I tell my friends' kids, I'm like, my name's fucking Mr. Santora. Call me Mr. Santora, you little 10-year-old shit.
Yeah. You have to. That's how I was raised also.
Yeah, and I called him Mr. Pileggi, and he said to me, he's like, please, Nick. And I was like, okay. And I tried it. My mouth wouldn't say it. I tried this. I couldn't do it. And I said to him, I said, Mr. Pileggi, if it makes you really that uncomfortable, I'll call you Nick. I'm like, but it's just not right to me. And he said,